What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Nacho Wrestling, and in today's video, and the first edition of 10 Count in quite some time, we are taking a look at the top 10 things I want to see in 2026. But before we do that, as always, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to stay up to date on all things Nacho Wrestling, and if this is your first time watching a Nacho Wrestling video, why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button and sharing this video with your friends. Coming in at number 10, we have AJ Styles leaving/retiring from WWE to go to AEW/New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, I want to preface this number 10 spot by saying that AJ Styles very well could not retire at Royal Rumble because I'm recording this on January 25th and the Royal Rumble is just 6 days away on the 31st. So for all we know, he beats Gunther, he signs one last little contract with WWE and stays there till the end of the year. But I'm going off the idea that Gunther is going to retire AJ Styles the same way he retired John Cena. And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that AJ Styles has so much of his career tied to guys like Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels, and of course Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks as well, the guys who kicked him out of Bullet Club way back when. It would be silly to try and do a retirement tour for AJ when he doesn't get to have matches against some of his biggest opponents in his career, whether it be Ring of Honor, TNA, or New Japan guys. Coming in at number 9, we have Obafemi winning any title on the main roster. I'll be the first person to admit that I'm not a huge fan of everything WWE is doing with their main roster, but one of the things I have a lot of high hopes for, one of the people that I have a lot of high hopes for, is of course Obafemi. I loved everything Oba was doing in NXT with the North American title, with the NXT World title. I quite enjoyed him, and he was one of the few reasons that I tuned in to NXT, very sparsely, but still, I would tune in for him. I think the best case scenario for Oba is that he immediately catapults himself into the IC title picture, taking that title off whoever has it, and trying to capitalize on beating Gunther's 666-day reign as Intercontinental Champion. I know a lot of people would probably groan at the idea of another super long championship reign, especially one that we just had a long one with, but I think someone like Oba could benefit from that, especially in this mainstream era of professional wrestling. Or you know what? Better yet, have Oba win every title. The Intercontinental, the US, the World title, the Undisputed title. Hell, have him win the tag titles solo style. Number 8, WWE realizes that they have to lower their ticket prices. Call me cheap, call me frugal, call me whatever you want, but I think that WWE shows are a little too pricey, especially if I'm going to sit in the nosebleeds and I'm paying $100+ for each ticket. I think this is one of the biggest reasons that WWE has lost a little bit of steam in the past few months as well, is because they're pricing out their real fans. Case in point, I've seen this exact situation happen in the NBA with my favorite team, the New York Knicks. The Knicks face this similar issue, among several others, but none more so than the ticket prices for their lower seats and even their upper nosebleed seats, especially during the playoffs, have become exorbitantly overpriced to the point where the real fans, the real diehard New Yorkers that love the Knicks can't go. The same thing could be said for WWE. They're trying to get people to go that are just gonna record the shows, put their views on social media, and get the most clicks and follows and shares and everything like that. They're not worried about the genuine wrestling fans that want to watch wrestling. Number 7 is another nebulous one, but I would love it if AEW and Tony Khan started to utilize more of the women in the women's division. Why are there so many talented women left off the card during Dynamite and Collision? Don't get me wrong, I love Toni Storm, and I love Willow, and I love Mercedes Moné, and I love Harley Cameron. I think those women are great. But there are more women that should be getting showcased and featured in wrestling matches, not just promos, but matches on TV. It also helps the women get more reps in the ring, and would lead to fewer botches when they're in these big multi-women matches like the Casino Gauntlet this past year at All In. This is also a major one for me because I hope this year we get to see a women's C2 finally announced. If we can do a women's Owen Hart Cup tournament, then we can also do a women's C2. We just gotta get more women on the show so that when they're in these tournaments, they're believable winners. Number 6, we have WWE buys TNA. I feel like this one should have happened back in 2025 if we're being completely honest, and honestly, I always thought that WWE secretly bought TNA like way back in 2024, especially with how easy it seems for them to big brother the company and steal their top talent whenever their contracts are up. Case in point, Joe Hendry, Jordan Grace, and inevitably Leon Slater as well. All three of these guys and girl were the top of the game for TNA for quite some time. And then they started making appearances on NXT. They started appearing on main roster. Eventually, it became obvious that they were going to just sign with WWE once their TNA contracts were up. I think this would also benefit NXT as well if they sort of used TNA as like a middle ground between main roster and NXT. I mean, look at Trick Williams in NXT. He had a run with the TNA World title, was featured on NXT and TNA at the same time. He got to tour a little bit and go around and work different crowds, and I think it really helped show what he has to offer and made him what he is today on main roster on SmackDown. Number 5, AEW/Tony Khan finally gets Ring of Honor a TV deal. I love me some Ring of Honor, and I love the brand identity and brand awareness that comes with that promotion and that brand as a whole. The idea of a code of honor and everything like that, I always thought was fun. Shaking hands before the match kind of shows that these guys are about to, no pun intended from Bryan Danielson, kick each other's fucking heads in. I also think a big thing here is that if you want people to watch Ring of Honor and take Bandito as a world champion seriously, this is my big point here with Bandito, is that Bandito's weekly show shouldn't be hidden behind a paywall. I understand that Ring of Honor is sort of AEW's developmental brand these days, but even NXT has a TV deal. Number 4, we have Kenny Omega taking on Will Ospreay for the AEW World title at All In. This, of course, would be the main event of All In this year, and disregard everything I said in my way too early predictions video for All In, but with WWE seemingly trying to counter-program All In this year because it's in Wembley with a show in Wales, AEW's got to go all out. They have to go balls to the wall, and what bigger way to do that than putting on the biggest trilogy match that they could in Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay 3 for the world title. Coming in at number 3, we have Bayley jumping ship to AEW. To me, this just seems like the right path for Bayley to take with the ever-evolving women's division in WWE, with more and more women coming up from NXT that Triple H is clearly so high on. It just seems obvious that Bayley is becoming the toy that nobody wants to play with anymore in WWE. I also think that this is infinitely more possible than Mercedes Moné ever going back to the WWE. Another thing to note real quick is that every time Bayley posts a picture with Chris Statlander or shouts out Mercedes Moné on social media, I think we're just one step closer to this happening. Number 2. WWE/Netflix cancels Unreal. If WWE can get rid of the post-show press conferences that they used to do and everything like that, then they can easily get rid of this dumb show. I think this show has done a lot more harm than good to the overall image for WWE. It shows that the writer's room is very out of touch in today's age. I mean, it's a room full of white guys. Not one, or if there is one, he doesn't really seem to talk that much or speak up, but not one minority, not one woman in the writer's room either. Nobody is different there. It's all just a bunch of white dudes sitting around coming up with shitty ideas. They seem more out of touch than they did back in the Vince days. It seems like it could just benefit them to get rid of this show, take the budget that they had for this show, and put it into something like WWE 24, or bring back Table for 3. With that type of production that Netflix has, I think those types of shows would be a lot more interesting to watch than just seeing how the sausage is made. Coming in at number 1, we have WWE and AEW stop poaching each other's talent and build up your own. Obviously, I have both companies listed here because I think both companies are guilty of this. The most recent example being WWE seemingly scooping up Will Hobbs before his contract was even cold from AEW. It reminds me a lot of when TNA would sign WWE guys just because they were in WWE. Just because this person made a semi-big name for themselves in AEW and they want to test the waters somewhere else does not mean WWE should automatically offer them a contract. I mean, they had no plans for Andrade, and Andrade has ended up coming back to AEW, one of the first people to go to AEW, or leave WWE, go to AEW, leave AEW for WWE, and then come back to AEW again. You don't want this to happen with everybody, and it doesn't happen with everybody. Look at Jade Cargill, look at CM Punk, look at Cody Rhodes. Those three, obviously CM Punk and Cody Rhodes had name value to them before joining AEW and everything like that, but Jade Cargill is probably the biggest example of a bona fide star being made in AEW and then just going to WWE. But don't worry, this isn't all just ragging on WWE, because AEW does this too. They poach WWE talent, and it's been a little more sparsely lately, but guys like Cope, guys like Andrade even coming back as well. And of course, all the talent they steal from CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling when the time is right. Granted, with the CMLL deals, they are kind of more dual contracts and everything like that, but more often than not, they steal them, and they're more often on AEW programming than they are on CMLL TV. Not saying I'm complaining, because I love me some Hechicero and Mystico, but why do you keep bringing in luchadors, or why do you keep bringing in Japanese wrestlers and everything like that, when you have guys that you should be building up that have been with your company for so long? And this is not to say that it should be stopped full force, just dial it back a little bit. Just, relax. Tranquilo, as Los Ingobernables would say. Well, that is it for today's episode. Let me know what you guys thought about it down in the comments below. Let me know what you want to see this year in 2026 in professional wrestling down in the comments below. Like I said, let me know about all that down in the comments below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to stay up to date on all things Nacho Wrestling, and I will see you guys next time.